as I said before when we were meeting, that this particular time we'll look at a method that I kind of ginned up to keep track of and maybe even actually monitor how you're doing in your communication with these different groups. And I call it the interaction matrix, or as you'll see on the figure that will be on the screen, a matrix for tech transfer planning. But I really call it an interaction matrix. Now, it may look a little confusing, so let me take a few minutes to kind of share with you what I had in mind. You'll notice that there's the segments infrastructure, risk, economic and fiscal, technology, government and politics, marketing, culture, institutional structure and function, and education. These are classes of groups of people related to these areas. For example, with regard to infrastructure, well, that would be if you're, say, you were going to build a factory to make a particular technology, and you had to be concerned about roads, sewage, water, and electricity, and the various inputs, and how you were going to get them to your facility, and then once they're there, how you're going to get them out and get them distributed. All that requires some infrastructure. Well, who are the people that you would have to deal with to get that done? And that's who would go in that category. So that would be many little squares within the big square, and that's why it looks like a brick array. So you would list the people there, and you would list them not only there, but as you see, but also on the top. So the horizontal and the vertical has the same set of segments, and we'll talk about why that's true in a minute. Then with regard to risk, well, there may be certain people that are risk concerned. This could be actually some of the population, the public. It could be people in government who are concerned about, well, is this too risky for our community? Or some people, just private citizens. It could be the school system, whatever. There may be people that are interested in the economic and fiscal impacts of what it is you're going to do that you need to talk to, and usually money speaks, so that could be a very important part. There are those who are very interested or capable to understand and promoting both the technology itself. Of course, there's government and politics. That always plays a role in all this, and we're going to see that greater next week. And there's people there. I mean, is it your local representative, your representative in the House of Representatives for the U.S. government or for the state or the Senate? Or is it somebody in the executive branch that you need to talk to? It could be an EPA person. It could be a person from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the Department of Energy, the National Security Agency, whatever it may be, that government could play a role in how well this item is adapted. Now, it may be that you don't need half of these people, so your interaction matrix will be only those that are the most important as far as having an impact on your curve for adoption. And, of course, there's the marketing people. People are concerned about, well, how are you affecting my culture? I don't like it. I like the aesthetics the way they are. The aesthetics are terrible. I wish they would improve. And you heard from Greg how important in his own life and the lives of the students he works with. And we as individuals, how important having a sense of being a part of nature was, as well as how important it is that we feel a part of community. You see, it's important that we feel part of a community of other people, feel part of a community of the other aspects of this world we live in. Well, and there's those involved with how a company is organized and that sort of thing, institutional structure and function, and that could be yours as well as the people you're working with, and of course, what role does education play? So, in this category of, and there may be a category I've left out that's important for your situation, but you list the folks that you have to deal with to affect your adoption or the transfer of your idea into use. And of course, across the top are the same people. And you say, well, that's kind of strange. Why is it that way? Well, when you stop and think about it, at any given time, and you'll notice time is going off of the arrow that way. Well, that I didn't know how to represent that, but this is a three-dimensional matrix, which starts out at time 1, time 2, time 3. This is just this one you're looking at here is just a snapshot at a particular time. A later time, there'll be another snapshot because this will change because of feedback, effectiveness, and so on. But at this particular time, you have to decide, well, do I want the technology person to talk to the government and politics, or do I want the marketing person to talk to government and politics people, or do I want the educational people to be dealing with the cultural people? I mean, who should talk to whom and when? And if you do any kind of project management where you lay out a schedule and you're looking for like critical path, if you do a project management diagram, there's always a critical path. And there's the critical path is the one that if a particular project isn't completed in a particular time, that has a critical effect on when that will be finished. In other words, it'll have an effect on your adaptation curve. And so when you look at projects, there's always people involved. And people have to be convinced, or you have to get a certain amount of data for them, or you have to build something, whatever the case may be. So as you move through your project to get to your end point, the people that have to be talking and convinced and whatever the case may be, this matrix will change as you move along in time, and that's why time is out here, because that'll be directly related to your project planning. And the question is, well, who should talk to whom? In other words, would it be more effective for an education person to talk to government and politics because, well, they're considered to be non-biased? Or would it be better to have a marketing person do it who's going to be very biased, but probably could make a really good case, perhaps more intriguing than the educational person could? Or really, should it be the economic and financial person on your side talking to government and politics because you're going to show them there's going to be an economic advantage? Or maybe they're the best ones to talk to cultural people to say, this is going to be good for your culture because look at this. The tax money's coming in, you'll have better schools, better roads, whatever the case may be. And you've also been talking to the infrastructure people to make sure that when you say that tax money can make better roads and so on and so forth, that indeed that's going to be the case. So this just takes the business of how and when you talk to people and who does what and when and how that relates to your project management plan. It tends to organize the information for you because isn't that most of the problem? We have a lot of information. The question is, how in the world do we organize it and make sense out of it? Well, this is just one way to do it. And this allows for planning. Also, it allows for you to say, well, I can keep track of what's going on, and I can look at the importance of the feedback that I'm getting as a result of an action. Every action has a reaction. Feedback is what you see as a consequence of that reaction from that action. Action, reaction, feedback. Simple control theory idea, works for machinery, works in the biological world. It works with people. It's no different. And you can say, well, that sounds like you're manipulating. Well, I guess you can say every marketing person, everybody that's got an idea is a manipulator. What you're trying to do is, if you're living your ethic You want to make sure that your point of view is heard. And how are you going to do that? You're going to try to convince people to the best of your ability. You can call it manipulation, convincing, I don't care what you want to call it. But you're trying to have an impact that you believe, because you're living your ethic, you believe is going to be the best for you and hopefully your culture. If you don't care about your culture, well, that's fine. Then you're doing it to better yourself. And when you stop thinking about, again, how this all relates to Maslow and others, you can see how it all kind of comes together. And why, again, it's important that we do some planning, we be respectful, we understand how to have effective communication, how to engage in good dialogue. You know, there was a book written by Rule Howe called The Miracle of Dialogue. Many years ago, you probably get it on Amazon or some company like that, or a library, and you'll find it. Read it. It's short, it's excellent. And in there, I found when I read it, and really kind of took it on as the way I wanted to behave, was a statement by a man named Martin Buber. And he said something that is so commonsensical, but I think we tend to forget it. True conviction comes from a dialogue between alternatives. In other words, the best that we can come up with and be convinced and convicted about will be when we test our convictions, our ideas, against others in the best way possible. And the best way possible in testing it against others is what? With good dialogue. True communication. And that works best when there's mutual respect. So you can have all these diagrams and everything you want, but underlying the quality and the ability for this to work, you have to understand fundamentally the need for respect and the process of real communication, and that means dialogue and being willing to give a little if you see that theirs is better, because in the end, you want the best. And that's going to only come from testing. We do that in engineering every day. We have a corrosion sample. We got a new steel. We're going to test it in seawater. We're going to test it in regular water. We're going to test it in radioactive backgrounds or acids or bases or whatever. And if it makes the test, that's the best one to use. That's no different than with an idea or a concept or a desire or to meet a particular ethical standard that you have, which in the process, you may find you change your ethical standard. But that's a decision you make, and it isn't forced on you, because you've tested your idea against others, and your mind tells you, that's better. So that brings about consensus. And when we have consensus on an idea that sounds like it's on firm ground, we're going to do better than if it's not. So this matrix here can help you. And we'll talk about this more when we get into the next week, where we look at more detail at the technology transfer process. So thank you very much. And we'll have a little wrap-up summary here next time we get together.